Audio stream check. Audio stream check.
can you hear us?
I got you.
Yep, I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. All right, it is 10:16 a.m. and all the commissioners are present, so we will begin the agenda meeting for today, Thursday, June 20th. I would ask those who are participating on the call to please mute your phone unless you need to speak. I know that I've said this before because we've had one other agenda in the hearing room. I know this is a bit unusual to have an agenda in the hearing room, but we have had great in-person attendance, and I think that's wonderful, and I want everyone to be able to have a seat. So long as we have great attendance, our location may change, so just make sure you're paying attention to the meeting notices. Before we get started today, we do have a team member who will be leaving us. It is Commissioner Coleman's advisor, Charlene Ketchum. She's been at the commission nearly 9 years advising, and just want to take a minute and recognize Charlene's hard work, and we're excited for her new opportunity as Chief of Staff at SEPA. So it sounds like a great opportunity for her, and I know that Commissioner Coleman also has some comments she wants to make.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Charlene, please stand up and wave so everybody know who you are. So, unfortunately, this is Charlene's last day in the office, and I am really, really sad to see her go. Charlene has not only been a real asset here in Jefferson City, but she has been just amazing as as the number 2 person in my little fiefdom at the national level with NARUC. My success as chair of the Committee on Consumers and the Public Interest, and currently as chair of our Select Committee on Regulatory and Industry Diversity, has only been possible as a result of Charlene's finger being involved in everything that I've done on a national level. When I'm at NARUC, commissioners ask me, how's Charlene? She is thorough, attentive to detail, very pleasant out in public, and most of the and a friendly person all around. She definitely will be missed. I am so thrilled, though, as the chairwoman said, for this new opportunity for her as she goes to be chief of staff to the president of SEPA, who, of course, knows about Charlene because of all the work that Charlene has done on a national level, including traveling, excuse me, to Zambia with the USAID program that assists NARUC in going to other countries to promote energy and other important energy-related issues in those countries. She's made friends around the world. She's very smart. If you've ever been in her office, you'd see not only her law degree documents, but her master's degree and her undergraduate degree work. So very talented in very many ways, and a somewhat amateur photographer. She's got beautiful pictures of her travels around the world hanging on her wall also. I guess they'll all come off today. But Charlene, again, thank you so much for being so supportive of me and of this commission. You will be missed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Today before us, there are 7 tariffs and new orders, 1 other discussion, which is a presentation from Department of Economic Development. First, we need to approve the minutes from the June 12th, 2024 agenda. Those minutes have been provided in advance. Commissioners, are there any changes or modifications to those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting those minutes, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? By a vote of 5-0, those minutes are approved. The first tariff in new order today is in file number WO-2024-0195 in the matter of the petition of Missouri American Water Company for approval to change a water and sewer infrastructure rate adjustment, or WSIRA. On March 1st of this year, Missouri American Water filed an application and tariff sheets requesting that the Commission authorize changes to its WSIRA. On May 30th, staff filed a recommendation that included staff's recommended WSIRA surcharges, which would generate just over $20 million in WSIRA revenues. On June 10th, Missouri American filed a response and stated it accepted staff's recommendation. No other responses were filed. Therefore, the order before us rejects Missouri American's initial WSIRA tariff filings and authorizes Missouri American to file new tariffs that include the WSIRA surcharges recommended by staff and accepted by Missouri American. With that, I recommend we approve the order version number 1. Commissioner Coleman,
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman,
I'm in support of the order.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer, and Commissioner Mitchell.
I support the order.
All those in favor of approving this order, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? By a vote of 5-0, that order is approved. Second tariff in new order today is in file number IA-2024-0332 in the matter of the application of the Stoutland Telephone Company, DBA Raleigh Networks, for expanded designation as an eligible telecommunications carrier, or ETC, for purposes of receiving federal and state lifeline and disabled support. On May 6th of this year, Raleigh Networks filed its application for expansion of its designation as an ETC to provide federal and state lifeline and disabled discounts to qualifying low-income and disabled subscribers. Raleigh Networks currently provides local telecom and broadband internet access in the Missouri Exchange of Stoutland. Raleigh Networks also requested a waiver of the Commission's 60-day notice requirement. Staff conducted an investigation and on June 4th filed its recommendation to approve Raleigh Network's request for expansion of its ETC designation for the purpose of receiving federal low-income support on a statewide basis. Staff stated Raleigh Networks met the requirements of the Commission's rule regarding ETCs. No other filings were received. Therefore, the order before us grants Raleigh Network's request for expansion of its ETC designation and waiver of the Commission's 60-day notice requirement. With that, I recommend we approve the order version number 1. Commissioner Coleman,
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman,
I support the order.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer, Commissioner Mitchell.
I support the order.
All those in favor of approving this order, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? By a vote of 5-0, that order is approved. Third tariff in new order today is in file number IA-2024-0333 in the matter of the application of New Florence Telephone, DBA Raleigh Networks, for expanded designation as an ETC for purposes of receiving federal and state lifeline and disabled support. Similar to the last case, on May 6, Raleigh Networks filed another application for expansions of its designation as an ETC to provide federal and state lifeline and disabled discounts to qualifying low-income and disabled subscribers. Raleigh Networks currently provides local telecom and broadband internet access service in the Missouri Exchange of New Florence. They also requested a waiver of the Commission's 60-day notice rule. Staff conducted an investigation and on June 4th filed its recommendation to approve Raleigh Networks' request for its expansion of its ETC designation for the purpose of receiving federal low-income support on a statewide basis. Staff stated Raleigh Networks met the requirements of the Commission's rule governing ETCs. No other filings were received. Therefore, the order before us grants Raleigh Networks' request for expansion of its ETC designation and a waiver of the Commission's 60-day notice requirement. With that, I recommend we approve the order version number 1. Commissioner Coleman,
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman,
I'm in support of the order.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer, and Commissioner Mitchell.
I'm in support of the order.
All those in favor of approving this order, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? By a vote of 5-0, that order is approved. fourth tariff in order today is in file number GC-2024-0290, Marquette Bay versus Spire, Missouri, or DBA Spire. On April 3rd of this year, Marquette Bay filed a complaint against Spire, alleging Spire has violated numerous federal laws and the UCC. On May 8th, Spire filed a motion to dismiss. On May 23rd, staff filed a report which said the complaint did not identify any violation of commission rules or any matter which the commission has jurisdiction, and staff recommended the complaint be dismissed for failure to state a claim upon which relief may be granted. Therefore, the order before us grants the motion to dismiss this complaint. With that, I recommend we approve the order version number 1. Commissioner Coleman,
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman,
I support the order.
Commissioner Kolfmeyer, and Commissioner Mitchell.
I support the order.
All those in favor of approving this order, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? By a vote of 5-0, that order is approved. The fifth tariff in new order today is in file number GR-2024-0106, and the matter of the request of Liberty Utilities or Mid-States Natural Gas Corp. DBA Liberty to implement a general rate increase for natural gas service in Missouri service areas of the company. For awareness, this order has been removed from agenda today as it was setting local public hearings, and just over half of those locations have been secured. So in the future, this order will come out via delegation. We will not be addressing it today at agenda. Sixth tariff in order today is in file number EF-2024-0021, in the matter of the petition of Union Electric Company, DBA Ameren, Missouri, for a financing order authorizing the issue of securitized utility tariff bonds for energy transition costs relating to Rush Island Energy Center. Prior to engaging in case discussions, I'd offered some opening remarks about how we got here. Just to recap, this plant is under a federal court order to close. The General Assembly adopted a securitization mechanism in the year the decision was made to close the plant to allow the company to recover the cost of doing so. And this mechanism presents a net present value to customers as compared to traditional rate-making recovery. I think the decision to retire the plant in 2021 was prudent and clearly fits under the statute, but without replacement resources, Ameren is in a notable generation capacity shortfall, as highlighted in case testimony. So today I'm going to focus on capacity. The decision to retire or abandon Rush Island will result in a loss of just over 1,100 megawatts. As a result of that decision, amongst other important factors, Ameren cannot currently meet their local clearing requirement for MISO for fall of 2024 and spring of 2025. MISO's capacity auction for Zone 5, which is primarily Missouri territory, was around $719 a megawatt day compared to other zones at $15 or $34 a megawatt day, depending on the season. This is largely a function of higher load requirements. There is less accredited generation capacity available, a reduction in fleet-wide capacity for certain technologies that has impacted Ameren facilities, and reduced imports capability. In Ameren's 2023 IRP, Chapter 9, they list their schedule of generation retirements and further demonstrate their capacity positions absent additional supply-side resources. The picture is not optimistic and is a cause for concern. I am concerned that we, the Commission, are just now seeing an application for a CCN for a gas unit. From the hearing, it's clear that it is difficult to purchase the amount of capacity that Ameren is short. There's no quick fix or easy answer to address this set of circumstances. We, the Commission, cannot put steel in the ground, but we can show that we're highly interested in the company doing so, and that we're interested in more generation options than just solar, which is all that Ameren has asked and been granted CCNs for since 2021, when the decision to retire Rush Island was made. MISO is also interested in more than just solar, often highlighting that they're looking for generation additions that have the same attributes of thermal sources that are being retired. In short, they're looking for gas generation to be added to the MISO footprint. While I haven't read the company testimony from the Ameren Gas CCN case yet, I'd hope that the company can help us better understand the timeline leading to the current gas CCN application and why it wasn't made sooner. I'd ask the company and the parties to the gas CCN case to not delay. Clearly, the Commission should have been presented the gas CCN application at a sooner point in time. The provision of utility service and meeting our energy needs is essential to the strength and success of our state and our communities. Missourians should be able to have the confidence that the Commission is ensuring that they receive safe and adequate service at just and reasonable rates, as it is our mission to do. With that, I recommend we approve the order version number 3. Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe that the decisions in this report in order comply by evidence supply. I'm sorry. Instead of talking off the top of my head, let me actually read my comments. I believe that the decisions in this report in order are supported by the evidence in the record and comply with the authority given to the Commission in the securitization regulations while balancing the best interests of the ratepayers. Thank you, Judge Clark and the technical team for all the work that you've done, put into this draft. I appreciate your insights that you all managed to pull together in this massive order. And with that, I support the order.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. Commissioner Holzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this case continues to highlight a capacity challenge that we have today and in the future. As you mentioned, building steel in the ground with new plants is something that I think that we're going to require as we move forward. But I would also ask all of our utilities in the state to begin the hard work of looking at new technologies, finding that emerging technology that's going to help bridge into the future. The legacy stuff that we're going to need for baseload is going to have to be a part of this solution. But I would also like to see an investment in research and development so that we can find new technologies to help solve this challenge. And with that, I support the order.
Thank you, Commissioner Holzman. Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I agree wholeheartedly with all three of you that have just given your opinion. I have grave concerns about capacity coming up here. Hopefully, we're going to get a presentation here shortly about how Missouri is growing and the growing need for energy. And we're having trouble meeting that need today, let alone hopefully what we're going to be told here in 15 minutes. So with that said, I'm really concerned about our capacity. I also want to thank the judge because I think he did an awesome job on this case. So with that, I'll be supporting the order.
Thank you, Commissioner Kolkmeyer. Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to say that I agree with your concerns and your comments, particularly the comments and concerns regarding capacity and what the state's portfolio of generating assets currently look like and what they need to look like in the very near future. So I think your comments were spot on, and I agree. However, I will be abstaining from voting on this matter.
Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. I think we almost have all mentioned Judge Clark's work on this case. Can't highlight how much we appreciate it. So again, thank you from all levels of the commission. Really appreciate it. With that, all those in favor of approving this order, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? And those abstaining?
Aye.
By a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 abstention, that order is approved. The last tariff in order today is in file number 00-2024-0364, and the matter of the assessment against the public utilities in the state of Missouri for the expenses of the commission for fiscal year commencing July 1, 2024. The last order regards the commission's assessment order for fiscal year 2025. Pursuant to Section 386-370, the commission has estimated its expenses incurred during the fiscal year ending July 1, 2024. These expenses are reasonably attributed to the regulation of public utilities, and the total amount is $27,719,177. The commission estimates that it will be reimbursed $750,000 from the Federal Gas Safety Fund. The assessment amounts are set out with more specificity in documents located at the commission's webpage at psc.mo.gov. The order before us sets the assessment amounts for fiscal year 2025 and directs a statement of such assessment be sent to each public utility on or before July 1, 2024. With that, I recommend we approve the order version number 2. Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman.
I'm in support of the order.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer. Commissioner Mitchell.
I support the order.
All those in favor of approving this order, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? By a vote of 5-0, that order is approved. Next, we do have a presentation from Department of Economic Development. Before we do that, I do want to go ahead and go to scheduling so that once upon the conclusion of the presentation, we can adjourn. So with that, scheduling. Next week, Monday, June 24th through Tuesday, June 25th, we have an evidentiary hearing in case WC-2023-0353, staff of the PSC versus Mr. Blevins in room 310 at 9 a.m. with Judge Clark. Next Wednesday, June 26th, we have agenda at 12 p.m. noon. Wednesday, July 3rd, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. That is the day before the 4th of July. We are having agenda. Monday, July 8th, there is a rulemaking hearing in the case of MX-2024-0310 and the matter of the Commission's amendment to the Commission rules relating to manufactured housing building codes here in room 310 at 10 a.m. with Judge Pridgeon. Wednesday, July 10th, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. Thursday, July 11th, and Friday, July 12th, there's an evidentiary hearing in case EC-2024-0108, Hurt v. Ameren, WebEx only at 9 a.m. with Judge Clark. Monday, July 15th, there's a discovery conference in case GR-2024-0106, in the matter of a request of Liberty Utilities to implement a general rate increase for natural gas service. Next door in room 305 at 10 a.m. with Judge Hatcher. Wednesday, July 17th, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. And then to round us out, Thursday, July 18th and Friday, July 19th, there's an evidentiary hearing in case EC-2023-0037, Missouri Coalition for Fair Competition and Corey Malone versus Ameren, Missouri, here in room 310 at 9 a.m. with Judge Sire. Commissioners, are there any changes or modifications requested to the schedule? Hearing none. Okay, now we are going to turn it back to go to our other discussion item, which is a presentation from our Department of Economic Development on new trends in Missouri's economic development efforts. Today we have Michelle Hadaway, Director of the Department of Economic Development, and Subash Alias, who is the CEO of Missouri Partnership. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and the Commission. Thank you for having us today. We really appreciate the opportunity to educate on trends that we are seeing within Missouri and economic development. First, I would like to apologize. Aaron Willard, Chief of Staff to the Governor, was supposed to be here this morning. Unfortunately, he got called away with the Governor on something. So Subhash and I are very happy to be able to speak as experts within economic development and what we're seeing. So, but he did send his regrets and his apologies, so I wanted to pass that on. So my name is Michelle Hadaway. I'm the Director for the Missouri Department of Economic Development. With me today is my colleague, Subhash Alias. He's the CEO of Missouri Partnership. He'll go into a little bit more detail on the difference between DED and Missouri Partnership, but they mainly do the main attraction into the state. And what we're seeing with new energy opportunities is a lot of that attraction, but we'll get into that a little bit. First, I wanted to brag whenever we get the opportunity on what Missouri is doing well. Now, we know this is not just from DED and Missouri Partnership. This is a holistic view all around Missouri. But a couple stats I want to call out is Missouri is first in the United States for job growth. We're going to go a little bit into that and how the economy is growing. We're third in the United States for best business tax index, fourth in the United States for new business expansion, fifth in the United States for workforce training, ninth in the United States for business creation, and ninth in the United States for automotive industry. Now, these are the same stats we use whenever we're recruiting companies to come to Missouri. And again, we know that this is not done solely within one department or one organization. It's a holistic view of everything that DED with my fellow cabinet members and the governor's office are doing together, including you guys, which we appreciate. So. A few trends and updates with regards to the Missouri's economy. As I said earlier, Missouri's economy is doing very, very well with regard to employment. As you can see on the chart above, Missouri's employment levels are up over 17,000 people from pre-COVID levels, which is up about 4%. What's important there is that we have fully recovered from the pandemic, and compared to our peer states, we are actually ranked second. So when we compare ourselves to our peer states across the United States, we're doing really, really well with regards to job growth in Missouri. So something we are extremely proud of, and you'll see that through the employment data through April. So in April, Missouri added over 16,700 new jobs. This was the largest monthly increase in employment since February of 2022. There have only been 2 states that added that many jobs in April, which was Texas and Florida. So when you look on a percentage basis or a per capita basis, Missouri is number 1 in that job growth for where we currently are per capita, which is something we're extremely, extremely proud of. When we look at manufacturing, which is really Missouri's bread and butter with regards to our job growth, it's an industry that is a top industry for Missouri. We're very good at recruiting it. We're very good at continuing to grow it. Since 2020, we've had over 15,000 manufacturing jobs added, and we're outpacing the nation in that job growth. So as you can see, the nation's up 1.4% in manufacturing. Missouri is up 5.5%. As we talk to site selectors who help large Fortune 500 companies find new locations across the world, they really point out that Missouri is primed for new manufacturing opportunities. And right now, with where we currently are, with federal resources going in for reshoring, chip manufacturing, innovation with regards to automation, and innovation in regards to automotive industry, right? This is an amazing opportunity for Missouri to be able to catalyst on this to continue with the growth that we're doing as a state. So we not only are we positioned with our jobs, our trainings, the people in the on-the-job training that they're currently doing, but we know with the trend of what's happening across the United States, Missouri has an amazing opportunity to really make sure that we grab hold of those opportunities and continue to grow. In fact, when you compare us in manufacturing to our peer states, and I apologize if this is kind of hard to see for the virtual people or on the screen, but Missouri is nationally ranked 6th in manufacturing employment growth since that time. Again, among our peer states, we're leading it. So something we're really, really proud of. It's kind of hard to see, but on that chart, the states that are actually lagging is Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan. And I can tell you what we're seeing as far as trends go for economic development is that those 3 states are getting really creative around incentives in order to be able to try to come back and compete with other states like Missouri. Michigan has passed some really aggressive incentives around manufacturing in order to be able to recruit new companies into that space. Now, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Subhash Alias, CEO of Missouri Partnership, and he'll kind of talk through a little bit about our structure and then what they're seeing as far as trends go for attraction projects.
Thank you, Director Hadaway. So thank you for the opportunity, Chair Hahn and the commissioners. So I want to give you just a quick intro to our organization and how we're structured and how we work, and then the work we do, and then a very quick primer. It's like an abbreviated version of how site selection works, because that's really key to what we're talking about. So our organization, Missouri Partnership, we're a public-private, nonprofit economic development group. We're funded through a contract with the Hawthorne Foundation and the Department of Economic Development. So the bulk of our funding comes from this contract from DED, and then around 25% comes from the private sector. So we have one objective as an organization, and that is new business attraction, so bringing new companies in. So very quick primer on economic development. There are kind of 4 pillars of economic development. There's startups, very important to grow our economy. Expansions, so existing companies that are expanding. 60 to 80% of job creation comes from expansions. And then there's retention, and that's keeping what we already have in the state. So our good friends, led by Director Hadaway at the Department of Economic Development, they focus on those 3 quadrants of startups, expansion, and retention. And our organization is solely on attraction, which is that upper right-hand quadrant. So bringing new companies in that don't typically already have a presence in the state. So the strategies are similar, but they're also very different. One of the things that's unique about business attraction is the clients or companies typically don't have a stake in the state. And so if you have what they're looking for, you get the looks. If you don't have what they're looking for, you get passed over and they go to the other states. The other thing I'll add is that the timeline is very short also for business attraction projects. They have a lower tolerance for things that are not ready, such as industrial sites. Okay, so very quickly, the abbreviated Site Selection 101. So there are around 6 buckets of information that companies will evaluate when they're looking to locate a facility. Location, just physically, where are we? Is it near a river, by an interstate? Is it in the central time zone? Things like that, just physical location. Infrastructure, anything you can touch and feel, roads, bridges, electric infrastructure, water, wastewater, but also real estate would be part of infrastructure. Workforce, can you find the right people with the right skills at the right cost, and not just who's there today, but who's there tomorrow. These are 10, 20, 30-year decisions that the companies are making, so they're looking at the entire workforce pipeline. Soft infrastructure, a little bit more nebulous, but this might be a key supplier or a key customer that is in a state or a region. There's also things like the animal health corridor on the western side of the state, or the plant science industry on the eastern side of the state, and geospatial. All that is part of the ecosystem that companies are attracted to and they evaluate. The business environment, this is how business friendly is a state or a city or a region. So these are things like taxes, financial incentives, regulations. Those are things that they look at. And then finally, why we love living in Missouri, quality of life. So things like access to healthcare, housing, sporting activities, recreational activities, cultural events. So companies will evaluate these, but then they weigh and score them differently based on the type of project that we're attracting. And we adjust our strategy based on the type of company that we're pursuing. So I could go through all of these, but I really want to focus on manufacturing because that's what we've been seeing a significant amount of activity. So manufacturing projects, location is going to be important for them. And by the way, this is generalizing a little bit. It will vary from this, but this is representative of what we're seeing. They will key in heavily on workforce, business climate, and lately, they've always focused on infrastructure, but infrastructure has become increasingly important, such as water, wastewater, gas, and electric. So there's been a lot related to that. I will add that you can see on the left, there's also cost sensitivity. So we tend to be, companies tend to be really cost sensitive with distribution centers, and we see a lot of activity in distribution centers because one of our value propositions is low cost in the state. But R&D operations tend to be less cost sensitive. Manufacturing is kind of in the middle. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where that is. Okay, so that is a quick primer on site selection. So our objective is to pursue these companies, and we adjust our strategy based on who and what kind of company we're pursuing. Now, what we've been seeing is a significant amount of advanced manufacturing, and so you can see that pie chart of the light blue that shows the bulk of our projects are advanced manufacturing. If you can see the orange, which is shown by 116, that is also food solutions. And typically food solutions is also manufacturing. So there's a lot, you can add those two together to really come up with the activity that we're seeing in manufacturing. You've also heard about data centers. Now this data goes pretty far back, so they're not making a large impact on this particular slide, but more recently they've been making a huge impact. So we just announced the Google data center, which is $1 billion data center that's under construction in Kansas City. We worked on that for 6.5 years, which is a little bit atypical, but that's how long that one took. And then Meta should be finishing any day now, which is another $800 million data center, which we announced 2 years ago in March of '22. So what else we've been seeing, and so this is a little bit hard to read, and I apologize, but this is a 24-month look back on the capital investment projects that we've been opening, marking the CapEx of the project. So if you go from right to left, the most recent data is from May of 2024, and the current year is noted by that darker blue line. So basically what that's saying is our average CapEx that we've opened in the last 12 months per month is around over $2 billion, maybe $2.5 billion in CapEx. So when a company comes to us and they say they're evaluating Missouri, typically they'll share their jobs and CapEx number. And what we're saying is every month, the average is around $2 billion that are entering our pipeline of open projects. The lighter blue line is what we saw the previous 12 months. So that's going all the way back to June of '22. And that average is $1 billion. So we've more than doubled the CapEx potential that's in our pipeline in the last 12 months. So there are a couple of things that are affecting CapEx. One, labor is tight and has been for quite some time. So companies are investing more in equipment, in manufacturing equipment. Even some of the distribution centers that used to be very labor intensive and still are, frankly, they're investing also in heavy equipment costs for moving product within distribution centers. There's also inflation. That's also creating some of the factors with why CapEx is going up. And there's a lot of competition for manufacturing equipment as well, as we see a lot of this around the country. And then the last slide I want to share with you, and then I'll turn it back over to Director Hadaway. These are the general stats of the projects that we have opened in the last, this fiscal year, so fiscal '24, which will wrap here in a couple of weeks at the end of June. You can see that third from the bottom is a 9.5 megawatt project. I would say maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago, that was a large amount of power for a project. And now this last fiscal year, we have 3 projects that are north of a gigawatt of power, which is a measurement I did not know existed until these last 12 months. But we have 3 of them that are at that level. So again, a lot of that is because of the added CapEx that we've been seeing, mostly in manufacturing, but also heavy interest in data centers, but including distribution centers as well. So I'll be back to answer more questions and turn it back over to Director Hadaway.
Thank you, Subhash. And on this slide, I would like to just reiterate some of the stuff that Subhash said, is that this is what's potential for Missouri. So this is the pipeline of opportunities. We are not the only state that are competing for these projects, right? Which is one of the reasons why we're here today in front of you guys. This is an alarming trend that we're seeing. I remember working a project in 2019 where they asked for 6 megawatts, and we were blown away by that in 2019. And Missouri lost the project. We did not have the infrastructure in place with the timeline that the company needed. They actually went to Tennessee instead. So again, that could be a one-off, but as we're seeing this continuing to grow, we felt like it was important today to come and educate on the trends that we are seeing within the pipeline, within projects, with what we're hearing from site selectors. Another chart I want to share with you guys, and part of this is because, again, we didn't really see this as something we needed to track as far as power goes, or need for utility goes. We've always consistently tracked site requirements as far as square footage, buildings, height restrictions, capital investment, job growth. We are now tracking electric requirements, but our good friends at Ameren have been tracking it for some time. So this is some of their data that I did have permission to use, I would like to say, okay? And we've seen the same data with Evergy too. So again, just advocating on what we've seen, but you can see the dramatic increase from 2019, where the average size of a potential project, and this is an Ameren service territory, is 3.2 megawatts. And in 2023, the average size is 162.5 megawatts. So a 50% increase in 4 years for potential projects that Missouri is trying to go after. And again, we've seen the same data from Evergy, and you saw from Subash's pipeline, which is all across the state, that demand that we're seeing just from July of last year. So a couple other things where Missouri is not alone with regards to this. These are some quotes from Site Selectors Guild, which is the top association when it comes to site selectors across the United States. They represent Fortune 500 companies and are advocating for states and countries on where companies should go and continue to grow. But if you look at that first quote, it's just a global issue. This is not just a Missouri issue, which means we're competing globally for these opportunities. And if we can solve that growth and power need, as the demand is coming in, Missouri is primed for an opportunity as we're working on other solutions. The second quote goes back to what I said earlier, is that a lot of this has to do with reshoring and federal dollars with IRA and CHIPS Act continuing to go in. So this has put a huge strain on the electric grid. And we're seeing an increase with data centers with regards to projects go, semiconductors, and then new opportunities for electric vehicles, all that other states are continuing to try to compete after, and so is Missouri. One of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about is that, we know that power is not the only thing, as Subash said, that's used for evaluation. And we've put significant resources, and Subash and his team has done a lot of research and data around site development. We want to make sure that we have sites that are ready to go so that when those opportunities come in, that Missouri is still in the competition and competing for those wins. As you can see here, based off the site selectors, the top two things that are a significant impact is access to development-ready sites and the electric power capacity. The access to development-ready sites, we feel like we've really tried to turn the corner on for Missouri, because a couple years ago we did not have access to these sites. And Subash and his team have done an amazing analysis across all of Missouri and where we could potentially put site-ready sites. And thanks to the help of the legislators in fiscal year 23, we had $75 million that went to help develop these sites. And then now we're using existing resources through the Missouri Development Finance Board to continue to develop these sites. So we feel like as a department, with the help of Missouri Partnership, we're really able to prioritize the access to development sites. We don't have a solution to the electric power capacity, which is why we're here today, just educating on the trend that's happening. The last slide here, again, with the trends that we're seeing, manufacturing and data centers, both Missouri are primed for opportunities for, And really, it's going to be a race to see who can get there first to use up these existing resources that are there. So data centers are moving much faster than manufacturer plants, as we're seeing with their timelines. And a lot of that is because it's a plug and play model where they can take what they've done in other states and then plug it right into Missouri. Where manufacturing, you have to find more workforce, the equipment's more challenging, the timeline for the equipment is a whole lot further out than something for a data center. So we feel like as we're looking at opportunities for Missouri to continue to grow and prosper, it's a race on who can get there first for these companies, and then what's eaten up and what's left. And as you know, I said earlier, we don't have a solution to this. This is why we're here today, to educate you guys on what's happening. Would love the opportunity to continue to partner. But we also realize that, as you guys said earlier in your remarks, opportunities for new load growth doesn't just happen overnight. It's not like putting a road in where you can just, here's the engineering, let's lay the concrete. We know there's time and planning that needs to go into that, which is why we're here today, because we want Missouri to have the opportunity to continue to compete. We believe Missouri is really primed and ready to go with our incentives, with our workforce, and a lot of other resources that we've put in as a state. We just don't want to miss out on opportunities because of now the requirement that's around utility needs. So with that, you get to see all of our fabulous pictures up here in case you guys haven't stared at us enough, and would love to answer any questions, or even after continue to collaborate on how we can continue to help with this. And we'll bring Subhash up too in case you guys have specific questions for him.
Thank you, Michelle and Subhash. Really appreciate your time and information today. Might actually first open it up to other commissioners for questions. Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for your presentation. Tell Aaron that I'm disappointed not to see him, because I was hoping he'd be here with his pink shirt, dress shirt on. He wears pink better than any man I've ever met. So
I will pass that on to him.
please do. But you know, in a past life, I was the executive director of the Missouri Workforce Development Board. So I've worked for EcoDevo a couple times over my 27 years with the state. So relative to the data centers, I'm really interested in them. I was in Virginia within the past year near Ashburn, Virginia. And on every corner, there's a data center, or there's one being built. And when I think about the data centers, you know, certainly I guess there's a tax benefit to it, but do these data centers really employ a lot of people? Because, you know, it's storing data. So I'm trying to decide what the other benefit is.
Great question. Absolutely great question. And I'll answer, and then I'll let Subhash, especially having worked the Meta and Google project. You know, it's something that we've gone back and forth with as data centers have evolved, right, over the past couple of years. And where's the opportunity for Missourians to continue to prosper, which I think is your question here, right? Typically, you're correct. You don't see a lot of job growth around data centers compared to a manufacturing facility. However, some of these larger data centers do have job growth around it, and less than 100, I would say, but very, very high paying jobs, which is something that we're interested in to helping Missourians prosper. The other thing I would say, yes, there are tax incentives, but the local tax incentives and the local opportunity for property tax increase and personal property increase is huge for communities. So if you have an opportunity in maybe rural areas or larger suburbs outside some of the metros, this could be game changing for some of their school districts. And I would love to give the example of what Google did too to get back to their community. And Subhash, I hope I have these numbers correctly, so jump in. One of the things they wanted to do was make sure they had the pipeline for the talent in Kansas City. So they put a Google lab into the Northland School District. I just want to make sure I have the correct one in Kansas City. Northland School District in Kansas City. And I think it was about $100,000. for the Google Lab, where then if students decide maybe they don't want to go to college, there's an opportunity for them to get a Google certification before graduating. So again, I think you will see partnerships. And I would say, and I'll let Subhash speak a little bit about this, when we're talking about data centers, we're not talking about ones that can up and move to another state within a couple years. We're talking about billions of dollars, huge infrastructure going into the ground, construction jobs that also go around it. Anything else, Subhash, you would add?
Yeah, no, the director covered it very well. The property tax revenue is something that's really substantial, both the personal property with the equipment that's inside them. So Google was $1 billion in CapEx, and Meta was $800 million. And I believe those are their starting points, although they're committing to $800 and $1 billion respectively. They're going to refresh that equipment every 3 years, just as your iPhone or your computer becomes obsolete, so do the servers that they're operating. But in addition to, although there are a few jobs, there's also these, because of that replacement, these are long-term construction sites. So the benefit is also in the construction of those data centers. And so there's where there's a lot of opportunity. One of the constraints for locating data centers is, so it'd be nice to be able to put them all over the state where you have land, but they're also concerned about getting construction labor to build them, because that's part of the issue too. So if I'm not mistaken, the Meta data center, for example, when that went in, they delayed that because of the Kansas City International Airport construction was happening at the same time, and they did not want to conflict with that. So the job creation is really mostly on the construction jobs that go with them. And I would agree, not all data centers are created equally. The Director Hadaway mentioned Google's investment in the community. Most of the companies that are building data centers, they also have a give back to the community type philosophy. So they have been looking to do that. But there are also data centers that are, just as the director said, they may have servers that are inside trailers and they want to hook up to a line, and then when they're done with what they're doing, they leave. That is not what we're talking about, and we don't consider those to be at all on the same level as something like a Meta or a Google and some of the others that are in our pipeline.
Great question, though.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Madam Chair.
Questions from other commissioners? I have some. Talk a little bit about, and Commissioner Coleman touched on, the controversy behind the data center tax credit. Basically, we're incentivizing data centers with low job growth. I think you point out the really positive aspects, but talk to me about how often that's currently utilized. What's the sunset on it? Where is there a cap? Where's the cap space? Just generally about where are we with the data center tax credit?
Hope I can answer all these questions. I might have to follow up with some information with regards to it. So there is no cap, my understanding, with regards to it. I do not know when it sunsets. That's the one I'm unsure about. But I can tell you we've had some companies jump at the opportunity and some companies say, no, we're good. Whereas then the locals have an opportunity to possibly abate the personal property or real property if they would like, and that's within their jurisdiction to do. You know, I think that one of the jobs of DED is to implement legislation that's passed, right? And the legislators made the decision to pass the data center program with regards to it. I think we've been very successful in attracting some big names with regards to that legislation, and they appreciate it. But again, you know, our job is to make sure that the programs that are passed by the General Assembly is put in and put into place with regards to it. Do you have any other context?
Yeah, I'll just add that, so I think that went into effect in 2017 or 2016, something in that time frame. So it wasn't until 2022 that we had an announcement related of substance. There were some smaller companies that took advantage of it. So I guess what that is we planted the seeds back in 2016, 2017 to get development 5 or 6 years later. At the same time, I think there are other states that saw, I think you mentioned it, Commissioner Coleman, other states have seen data centers well before Missouri has. So we might have been a little bit behind on that, and I feel like we're getting looks now with that particular program. There's another thing about it, and that's not all companies will use it, and Director Hadaway referenced that, because some of the companies have very sensitive information that they do not want out, and the program requires them to reveal that information, so they choose not to reveal it, and then hence they don't get the benefit because they don't apply for the program. So that has been also a topic, and different companies will view it differently. But not everybody has taken advantage of the program, despite it being there. It's a nice
I'm sorry.
sales pitch, too,
Yeah.
to kind of say it's there, and it gets them interested. And then after they dig deeper, a couple have said, that's great, but it's probably not going to work for our profile.
And I thought of something else as Subash was talking, of course, right? We might be up here all day, guys, so. But, you can have the best incentives for a state, but if you don't have the proper infrastructure, you're never going to win the project, right? So while that is a tool in our toolbox, we still need the infrastructure in order to be able to attract that company to come into Missouri.
Following up on that, so some of these do require a mass amount of resources, may require a new whole plant. Takes a long time to pay for those plants. So talk about the average economic development deal that you put together. How long are the incentives and the job retention requirements? If we're thinking about, ensuring the infrastructure is there, we also want to ensure that it's paid for by those who might need it. So talk about just your timeline for your projects and your contracts.
Do you want to speak on attraction?
Sure, yeah. So we have stats on, so the Google was 6.5 years. That is not typical. So our average, and this is everything, not just data centers, this is manufacturing, this includes office projects when we worked them kind of pre-pandemic, it's around 10 months. So from the date that we're alerted of the opportunity until they announce the project. The timeline for some of the incentives, which I think I'll may defer to Director Hadaway if I miss this, but one of the key signature programs is the Missouri Works program, which goes for 5 years for new companies and 6 years for existing companies. And the data center sales tax exemption goes for either 10 or 15 years, depending if it's a new data center or an existing data center.
Correct, you got it. Yep, you got it. Now, expansion projects, the timeline is much smaller, just because they already have an existing footprint and presence here in Missouri. So typically like to move a little bit quicker, but if they've been here for more than 10 years in Missouri, the incentives are for 6 years. Now, those are the state incentives. If they're getting any type of local abatement, which is typically done through a Chapter 100, by statute, that can go up to 20 years.
Okay. One other thing, economic development rates within the utility industry were kind of designed, I think, when there was declining load or negative load growth or whatever. That's not the case anymore. From your experience, how often are economic development rates from utility companies used in these particular projects?
So one factor, I joke that we have many slides that I did not share with you, but one of them is the screening process that companies go through. And in that screening, they will do what we call a desktop analysis, and they will just blanket the whole country, and they will say, well, this state has this particular rate, that state has that rate. So we're being evaluated regularly without the awareness, without being contacted. So we don't have the data to say, how many times we've been eliminated because of rates or how many times we've been included because of rates. So it's a little bit of an unknown for us on the attraction side.
Okay.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
On the expansion side, I would say that the trend is going down, right? So I think especially coming out of the pandemic, I think you saw it was pretty popular as we were trying to continue to grow. Right now, I would argue that if we have the resources, if we have the infrastructure in place, we're already at a huge competitive advantage, and we're being looked at with that. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not looking at other creative ways to get incentives. I mean, when you talk about a $7 billion opportunity, right, we're going to do whatever we can, right, to get creative around solutions for that. But I can tell you that those riders have come into play in the past where it has been really beneficial. I think I have seen personally where that's been on the decline because of the scarce need of resources. But I don't know if we have specific data with regards to that.
That's fine. I've generally heard that, which is why I was kind of curious to see if it checked out with you all, so appreciate that. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you all for coming and presenting really helpful information. Appreciate it. Any other business? Seeing no further business before the commission, we're adjourned. Thank you.